They say our school is haunted. Kids whisper about strange noises in the gym at night, a basketball bouncing when no one's there. Others mention cold spots in the library, icy air that makes your skin crawl. Most of us laughed it off. Just spooky stories, right? We never thought any of it could be real. We were wrong. Everything changed the day Sarah brought the board. Leo's empty desk by the window was a constant reminder of what we'd lost. The teacher said it was an accident, but the silence in our classroom felt like it was all about him. We missed him so much, some of us would do anything to talk to him one last time. Sarah found a Ouija board in her attic, a spirit board she called it. At first it seemed like a game, something exciting and forbidden. We thought we were reaching out to Leo, but something else was listening. Something else was waiting on the other side, and it was more than happy to answer our call. It was a day I will never, ever forget. Ever. The morning dragged on, the classroom heavy with sadness. Even the class clown Mikey was silent, doodling sad faces in his notebook. Recess was subdued. The playground felt frozen, like the world was holding its breath. Back in class, Mr. Harrison gave us silent reading. That's when Sarah leaned over, eyes wide. "I brought it," she whispered, sliding the faded Ouija box from her backpack. The plan was simple. During lunch, when Mr. Harrison was gone, we'd try to talk to Leo. The rules were whispered. Never play alone, never ask about God, always say goodbye. They sounded silly, but as I looked at the strange dark box, a chill ran down my spine. We were about to break a rule we didn't even know existed. Lunch couldn't come fast enough. The air in the classroom felt charged, like a storm was coming. We huddled together, nervous and excited. The idea was both terrifying and thrilling. We just wanted to say goodbye, but we had no idea what we were really inviting in. The bell rang, and everything changed. We were ready. The lunch bell rang, and Mr. Harrison left. The room shifted, nervous energy crackled. Sarah set the box on the big round table. 6 of us gathered, all friends of Leo. The board looked ancient, the letters like tiny warnings. The planchette, a heart-shaped piece of plastic, felt cold under my fingers. Sarah placed the board and planchette in the center. The word goodbye stared up at us. It was just a game, I told myself. But a cold draft swept through the room, even with the windows closed. The board felt alive, waiting for us to begin. "Okay," Sarah whispered. "Everyone, fingers on." We hesitated, then reached out, forming a circle. The plastic was icy, our hands trembling. We were about to make a very big mistake. Silence. The only sound was the ticking clock. Our fingers barely touched the planchette. Sarah asked, "Is there anyone here with us?" Nothing happened at first. Mikey giggled nervously. "See? Just a dumb game." I started to relax, until the planchette shuddered. We all gasped. It began to slide, smooth as ice, guided by something unseen. It stopped on yes. My heart pounded. This wasn't a game anymore. Sarah looked pale, her eyes wide. We stared at each other, fear rising. We had opened a door, something had answered. The air grew colder, shadows deepened. We were not alone. The real haunting had begun. After yes, curiosity mixed with fear, Mikey leaned in, voice trembling. "Leo, is that you?" The planchette moved. Leo. Relief and sadness washed over us. "He's here," Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. We asked simple questions. "Do you miss us?" "Yes." "Are you happy?" "Yes." Each answer made us feel closer to Leo. We didn't notice the room growing colder, the shadows stretching. Then Jessica asked, "What's it like? Where you are?" The comfort vanished. The planchette jerked violently. It began to scratch between the numbers 2 and 4, over and over. 2-4, 2-4. The sound was grating, frantic. It wasn't spelling words anymore. Something was wrong. We realized too late. This wasn't Leo. The planchette's frantic dance sent panic through us. "Room 204?" Mikey whispered. "Our classroom." The familiar space now felt like a trap. We tried to pull away, but our fingers were stuck, as if magnetized. The plastic vibrated, a low hum crawling up our arms. Sarah started to shake, then Mikey, then Jessica. The shaking spread like a virus. My turn came. A cold jolt shot up my arm, my body trembling uncontrollably. We were puppets trapped in a circle of fear. The planchette moved faster, chanting 2424. This wasn't Leo. We'd opened the door for something else. It was here, in room 204, and it wasn't letting go. Chaos erupted. Mikey collapsed first, then Jessica, then Sarah. Each fall made the room colder, the humming louder. The lights flickered, then died, plunging us into gray gloom. Only the windows gave any light, but everything looked sinister. I fought to pull away, thinking of anything but the board. Tom and I were the last ones left, shaking, terrified. Tom's eyes glazed over, he went still. I was alone, the only one still fighting. The planchette stopped its dance. Slowly it slid under my fingers. It was coming for me. The room was silent, except for my heartbeat. I braced myself for whatever would happen next. I was alone. The humming stopped, the shaking faded. My friends were slumped, motionless. I lifted my fingers from the planchette, finally free. I stumbled back, breath ragged, surveying the nightmare around me. I turned to run for help, but something outside the window caught my eye. We were on the second floor. Nothing should be there. But pressed against the glass was a face. Pale, with empty black eyes and a twisted smirk. It wasn't Leo. It wasn't anyone I knew. The boy stared through me, raising a hand to the glass. I couldn't scream. Terror locked my throat. His lips moved, forming my name. Then he dissolved into the gray light, leaving only a greasy handprint. My scream finally broke free. The silence shattered. I ran for the door, desperate for escape. But the memory of that face would haunt me forever. The haunting wasn't over. My scream brought Mr. Harrison running. He found us. Overturned chairs, unconscious students, chaos. Paramedics arrived. My friends woke up, confused, remembering nothing. The adults blamed a gas leak or mass hysteria. The Ouija board vanished, never mentioned again. But I knew the truth. I tried to tell them about the face, but no one believed me. They said it was shock, imagination. But I remember those empty eyes, that cruel smirk. It wasn't Leo we spoke to. Life at school returned to normal, almost. I felt watched, cold spots following me. One night I heard a scraping sound at home. I opened the closet. The Ouija board was there, planchette pointing to a single word. Yes. The haunting had followed me home. If you're a high schooler who thinks dares are harmless, you need to hear this. What started as a joke became the most chilling night of our lives. Here's how it all started. We snuck into Westmore High after midnight. The old gym was thick with dust and shadows, every sound amplified. The air was heavy, as if the building itself was holding its breath, waiting for us to do something foolish. We were just kids thinking we were in control. There was a nervous excitement in the group, but none of us wanted to back out. We gathered in a circle, me, Liam, Chloe, and Maya, around a dusty Ouija board. We joked about summoning ghosts, but we all felt the weight of the moment. The board felt cold, the candlelight flickered, and the air was tense. We placed our fingers on the planchette, joking at first. Every creak and groan of the old building made us jump. Is anyone here? What's your favorite color? The planchette didn't move. We asked silly questions, half hoping nothing would happen. Then Liam whispered, "If there's a spirit here, tell us your name." His voice seemed to echo in the darkness. For a moment everything was still, the air stilled. The candle flame froze. It was as if the temperature dropped in an instant and we could see our breath hanging in the air. Slowly the planchette began to move. Our nerves turned to dread. None of us admitted to pushing it, but our hands trembled as the planchette slid across the board. We realized we weren't alone. The gym felt colder, the shadows deeper. It was as if something unseen had joined our circle, watching us. We had knocked on a door we couldn't close. The game was over. We yanked our hands away, hearts pounding, and stared at each other in shock. We were no longer in control. That night, everything changed. We left the gym different than we entered, haunted by what we'd done, and by what might have followed us out into the night. The planchette moved, slow and deliberate, as if guided by invisible hands. Each scrape echoed in the silent room, making our hearts pound. We watched, breathless, as the board spelled out S-A-R-A, H. The name seemed to materialize from the darkness. The air grew colder, our breaths visible in the candlelight. None of us knew a Sarah at Westmore. Chloe whispered, "I'm done," but the board demanded our attention. I asked, "Sarah, are you a student here?" The planchette shot to yes. "When did you die?" The answer, 1989. The room felt heavier, shadows deepened. We realized this was no game. We had a name, a year, and a haunting mystery. There was no going back. The next day, school felt different. Every shadow seemed to watch us. The air was thick with tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Even the usual morning chatter was muted, replaced by uneasy glances and hurried footsteps. The name Sarah echoed in my mind, repeating like a warning. The planchette circled that letter as if trying to tell us something urgent. We searched old yearbooks and found her. Sarah Jenkins, Drama Club, 1989. Her name almost glowed on the page. Her photo showed a bright-eyed girl, full of possibility. The yearbook called her death a tragic accident. But the words felt hollow, hiding something darker. The more we learned, the more questions we had. The planchette's movement felt like a plea for help from beyond. Sarah's story demanded to be told. We had to keep searching, no matter where the truth might lead us. Our search led us to old newspapers and town records. Sarah died on Halloween, 1989. She fell from the catwalk during play rehearsals. Officially, it was an accident. But rumors hinted at something darker. A janitor, Arthur Blackwood, found her body. He was questioned, then vanished from town. The case closed too quickly, the truth buried. Blackwood was a loner, his presence in the gym that night suspicious. The connection between Sarah, the gym, and the janitor was undeniable. We realized this was more than a haunting. It was a cover-up. We had stumbled onto a secret the school wanted to forget. Arthur Blackwood became our obsession. A retired teacher revealed he had a daughter, bullied relentlessly by drama club kids. She dropped out, and Blackwood grew bitter, especially toward the drama club, Sarah's group of friends. Suddenly his presence on the catwalk seemed sinister and threatening. Was it revenge? The thought chilled us deeply. Sarah's spirit wasn't just lost, she was silenced, her story left untold. We felt the weight of her plea for justice. We had to go back one last time. The gym was colder, the air electric with fear. We placed our fingers on the planchette. Before we spoke, it spelled H-E-L-P. My heart pounded. This was no game. I whispered, "Sarah, did you fall?" The planchette paused, then slid to no. She was pushed. The truth hit us. This was murder. The planchette jerked violently, the candle blew out, and darkness swallowed us. A sob echoed from the stage, a girl's cry. Then a guttural whisper, "Leave!" We ran, terrified, the truth burning in our minds. We had uncovered a crime and awakened something vengeful. The gym would never be the same. We never spoke of it again. The secret haunted us, a scar we couldn't erase. Westmore's halls became reminders of the justice denied. Sarah's face from the yearbook haunted my dreams. We couldn't go to the police with a ghost story. The truth went back into the darkness, with only us as witnesses. Sometimes I see the gym's windows at night and feel her presence. The fear never leaves, it becomes part of you. We knocked on a door and something answered. Some secrets are buried for a reason. Are you terrified to discover the chilling truth of what happened in room 504? The hospital room was no longer a place of healing. It was a battlefield. The priest stood firm, chanting prayers that echoed off the cold walls of Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis. Their focus, the boy strapped to the bed, but something else was there. Ancient, hateful, and powerful. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak a demonic whisper. Father William Bodern and his assistants were exhausted, fighting this entity for weeks. They'd seen objects fly, scratches appear on the boy's skin, and words of evil carved by an unseen hand. Still, they refused to give up, gripping their crucifixes, their faith, their only weapon. This was the final stand. The boy's face twisted into a mask of rage, his eyes burning with an intelligence not his own. Before the horror there was just a boy, Roland Doe, a quiet 13-year-old from Maryland. He was especially close to his Aunt Harriet, a spiritualist who introduced him to the Ouija board. It started as a game, a way to feel close to his aunt and maybe connect with something beyond. Then, tragedy struck. Aunt Harriet died unexpectedly. Grieving, Roland turned to the Ouija board, desperate to say goodbye. Alone in his room, he asked the board to let him speak with her. Grief and longing can act as a beacon calling out into the darkness. He was opening a door, unaware of what might answer. At first he believed he'd made contact. The planchette moved, answers came. But the energy shifted. The room grew cold, the messages strange and demanding. The comforting presence was gone. Something else had come through. By using the Ouija board, Roland had unknowingly invited an unknown entity into his home. This was the origin point, the beginning of the nightmare. It all started with loss and a desperate attempt to reconnect. Many paranormal cases begin this way, someone tampering with forces they don't understand. For the entities on the other side, it's a serious invitation. Roland, grieving and lonely, had rolled out the welcome mat for a force he couldn't comprehend. That force would soon latch onto him, feeding off his energy. The door was open and the darkness was seeping through. What began as a search for comfort became a descent into terror. The boy's world would never be the same. The Ouija board was no longer a game, it was a gateway. The first step had been taken, and there was no turning back. The darkness had found its way in. Roland's life, and his family's, was about to change forever. The nightmare had only just begun. Sometimes, the simplest actions have the most terrifying consequences. It started small, strange noises scratching in the walls, a dripping sound no one could find. The family tried to explain it away, but the sounds followed Roland from room to room. Classic paranormal activity, an entity testing boundaries, building energy. Then, objects began to move, a glass sliding across the table, a chair tipping over, Roland's mattress shaking violently at night. The family was terrified, witnessing the impossible. The activity centered on Roland. He was the focus. The entity was growing stronger, no longer content to hide. Roland changed, plagued by nightmares, withdrawn, his personality shifting. He heard whispers calling his name, sometimes speaking in a voice not his own. The family was losing their son to something they couldn't see or understand. Fear gripped the house. Every shadow became a threat. Physical signs appeared, red welts and scratches, sometimes spelling out words. One night, Louis appeared scratched into his chest. Desperate, the family saw it as a sign. They had relatives in St. Louis. Maybe a change of scenery would help. But the entity wasn't attached to the house. It was attached to Roland. They could run, but they couldn't escape the darkness clinging to their son. The move to St. Louis would not be an escape. It would be the setting for the final confrontation. The haunting had followed them. The nightmare was only intensifying. The family's hope was fading. The entity's grip was tightening. The true battle was about to begin. The whispers of evil had become a roar. There was no turning back. The darkness was now part of their lives. The move to St. Louis only made things worse. The entity grew bolder, more aggressive. The turning point came during a family dinner. One moment, Roland was a quiet boy. The next, he became a vessel for hatred. He froze, eyes rolling back, then spoke in a deep guttural voice, in perfect Latin. He cursed the family, mocked their fear, and spoke blasphemies that chilled the room. Suddenly his body contorted and he lunged across the table with unnatural strength. It took several adults to restrain him as he thrashed and spat, spewing vile curses. Afterward, Roland collapsed, unconscious. When he awoke, he remembered nothing. The family realized they were facing a full-blown possession. Medical doctors had no answers. There was only one place left to turn, the church. They needed an exorcist. The battle had escalated beyond their control. The spiritual war had begun in earnest. Desperate, Roland's family turned to the Catholic Church. Father E. Albert Hughes agreed to perform an exorcism after witnessing the phenomena. The first attempt was a disaster. Roland, under the entity's control, slashed the priest with a bed spring, forcing the rite to stop. The demon had won the battle, growing stronger. The family then sought help from the Jesuits at St. Louis University. Father William Bowdern and his team began a new series of exorcisms. The entity's power was on full display. Holy water caused blisters, objects flew, and the demon spoke in ancient languages. The priests were pushed, struck, and taunted with their own secrets. Words like hell and evil appeared on Roland's skin. The demon was marking its territory, showing the boy belonged to it. For weeks the priests fought on, physically and emotionally drained. The war of attrition was brutal. The entity's grip seemed unbreakable. The priests refused to surrender. The worst was yet to come. The final confrontation was approaching. The battle reached its peak in the psychiatric wing of Alexian Brothers Hospital. Father Bowdern and his team, exhausted but resolute, prepared for the final exorcism. The room was freezing, thick with malevolence. Roland thrashed, his voice a chorus of rage and mockery. The priest prayed, commanding the demon to reveal its name, a crucial step in the rite. The entity resisted, screaming and fighting back. The prayers intensified, a shield against the storm. Suddenly the entity screamed in agony, revealing itself as a legion. The priests pressed their advantage, prayers growing louder. Roland convulsed violently, the hospital wing shaking with a deafening noise. Then silence. The oppressive feeling vanished. Roland's body relaxed. His eyes were his own. He whispered, "He's gone," describing a vision of a brilliant light and a saint driving the demons away. The priests, weary but victorious, knew it was over. After weeks of relentless warfare, the boy was free. The demon had been cast out. The nightmare had ended. The scars would remain, but the darkness was gone. The legend of room 504 was born. In the aftermath, calm returned. Roland had almost no memory of the ordeal, a mercy perhaps. The priests were forever changed, carrying the weight of what they'd witnessed. Father Bowdern kept a detailed diary, but the case remained secret for decades. Roland went on to live a normal life, never again experiencing the paranormal. His family moved away, determined to leave the horror behind. The story became legend, whispered about but rarely discussed. The room where it happened was sealed off. The scars of the past lingered, but life moved on. Some stories are too powerful to stay hidden forever.